Cowpat pit is one of the kind of very user-friendly of the biodynamic preparations. I'll give a bit of a picture of the biodynamic preparations. As I said before, they work within a fully organic system. So, and the preparations, I suppose, are kind of part of what makes biodynamics unique. But this agriculture course was given by Rudolf Steiner in 1924, which is 100 years ago this year, in June this year, and gave it as a series of 8 lectures. It was held on a farm, given to about 80 farmers who were assembled there. So it was to that group of people at that time in that location in their sort of farming situation. So there were a number of references to their particular issues around them then, and uses of plants that grew around them at that time. So there's a couple of lectures about the making of the preparations that I'll be talking about, but the other 6 lectures do cover extensively the whole range. It really is a life picture that goes from the heights of the heavens, the starry realms, the Milky Way, wherever, the heights of the heavens to the depths of the earth, and to the, the rocks beneath our feet, right down to the center, the very being of the earth. And so it's a weaving between the heavens and the earth, and this was all ancient knowledge from earlier times, and earlier peoples did have that connection, and again that's still there among some of the indigenous peoples in New Zealand and India likewise, but in both those places also rapidly disappearing. And a little verse from Rudolf Steiner. He said, "The stars once spoke to man. It is world destiny that they are silent now. To be aware of the silence can become pain for earthly man. But in the deepening silence there grows and ripens what man speaks to the stars. To be aware of the speaking can become strength for spirit man." So it's a picture of earlier times when people just lived in a sort of knowingness of the world, and at a time where, they'd look out and have a knowingness about a plant and what would be a healing quality of plants, for instance, and all the healing, that knowledge that was there, and looking at the stars and the certain qualities of different kind of star groups and the origins of the mythologies related to the stars, but very importantly the rising point of the sun, how it moves back and forth during the seasons of the year. For us, it's in the midsummer, it's rising more to the south over here, and in the midwinter it's rising further north, a low path across the sky. It's only above the horizon for 10, 11 hours, and so that's the kind of winter sun. The summer sun is we have 16-hour days. It's rising more over here, higher in the sky, and setting out here. So those things were observed, not only observed but loved. And we can love simple things like that too. And I've got, from my back door at my house in Hawke's Bay, I've got quite a nice eastern horizon, but I know that on the longest day the sun rises by this neighbour's TV aerial, and on the shortest day it rises by this neighbour's, the third post along the fence on this side, that neighbour's place. And then at the equinox there's an oak tree on a sort of further hill over there, just comes up by the oak tree. So that's my kind of mini Stonehenge, but it's, it's part of that feeling your place. What is my place? And from my own kind of backyard, when I look out, I can see the Southern Cross, and from that you can find what's the South Celestial Pole. There's no star on that point in the Southern Hemisphere, but the stars around it, you know, they never set. And that's the thing with the Southern Cross, why it's so absolutely central to navigation in the Southern Hemisphere, is any time of day or night, any time of the year, you'll always find the Southern Cross. And from the cross you can, you know, take the length of the cross, and 1, 2, 3, 4, oh, that's not quite right because the point is up there, but you know, it rotates around that point, and you can always find the South Celestial Pole. From the pole, drop a perpendicular and you're looking directly south. So yeah, it's been such a part of navigation, but it's kind of that still point. And in the previous house where I lived, I was just out the back door, it was all about the still point and the stillness of that part of the sky. But out the front side, that's where the zodiac crossed, and you were seeing all the planets in that area, and the movement, and a sort of much more busyness. So it just, even, you know, the qualities of your location, if you get to know these rhythms, you have a feeling of the qualities, in that case, just of the sort of the mood of my backyard at night, and the mood of my front yard was quite different. And so yeah, just rebuilding, I guess, a living connection with what is this cosmos. And indeed the word cosmos itself is a Greek word that meant order. It was their word for order. There was chaos, was the sort of disorder, and cosmos is the word for order. And they probably knew the essence of chaos as well, that that's the point where substance can connect with the cosmos, the ordering forces of the heavens. Because yeah, one of the things we do with, and some of you have done with the stirring, we have stirred the water around and then you change the direction and stir the other way, so you're bringing it to a sort of a orderly vortex, and then you change direction, and it all, you get hundreds of little vortexes, and it swirls and swishes in the bucket, and then you get it to order in the other direction. And so there's a number of things happening in there, but during that sort of chaos, it's like it breathes in a big breath of what's everything around, what are my whole surroundings, what are the whole heavenly surroundings, what's in the sky above, and you know, in the depths of the earth below, presumably. It's like that super connecting time is into when we have these chaos points. And of course there's many chaos points happening everywhere. There's, well, even within a vortex, if you swirl water in a bottle, for instance, I don't know if there's enough in here to sort of do that, but you see that, yeah, it's not really, but you can see that it pulses at the bottom of the vortex. You get a pulse, and any time there's a pulse, you're getting there's a point of chaos in a pulse where it's connecting with much wider forces. So every time our heart beats and there's a pulse of blood in our blood flow, that connects us, it's keeping us connected with our much wider cosmos, or ordering surrounding. So it's a picture of, it's a wider picture. We've come to a very narrow picture of DNA sort of determining the form of ourselves, of everything, and you know, DNA sequencing of everything. And it's not that that's incorrect what they're finding, it's more that, well, my question is, does the DNA serve a higher ordering force? is it in itself the determinator of the form, or is it serving a higher force? So I remember reading some science thing recently where they said it was scientists working on how easily they could mutate genes in a certain, I can't remember it because I hadn't prepared this, it's just a thought that came to me, but how easily they could mutate the genes within this organism. And they posed the question, well, you know, it's surprising because this organism has lived for millions of years or thousands of years in this place and this place and this place, and populations that aren't breeding together, and yet they're maintaining their form. The likeness, the DNA is unchanged between, or very minor between them. Well, you're talking about the same sort of thing as we were on just before, and about the whole connectedness between the earth and the heavens, and bringing in the ordering forces of the cosmos, so that the cosmos is very much involved in the order of life. And I mean, this was known to indigenous peoples here, but you know, amongst the Greeks, say they had things like the parts of the body being connected with the 12 zodiac constellations. You know, that's, I think it's Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo's the back, Virgo somewhere around here, Libra, the balance of the hips, I suppose, and Scorpio, the reproductive area, and then Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. You know, the parts of the body, the form, the structure associated with the distant stars, the fixed stars, and then the organs of the body, which are in the flow of the body and the life processes connected with the planetary realm. So the heart being the sun, and then, well, sun, moon was the reproductive or propagation processes, Mercury, the lungs. When we fill our lungs, we feel it penetrate through our whole body. Venus is the kidneys and moving things on. Venus, Mars is the gallbladder, I think, and Jupiter, the liver, and Saturn's the spleen. So, you know, though that was a kind of a wisdom, but you know, in every culture these things have come in a different way, and so they would, you know, there'd be certain healing plants that would relate to helping a certain part of the body or certain, you know, organ processes. So with biodynamics, that's what we're really working with, is helping to reconnect the life on Earth with the cosmic ordering forces. And so especially over the last 400 or 500 years, as and led by the sort of Western countries, the separation from the bigger knowing, and coming down more and more to this self-consciousness, and you know, what you see is what you've got, sort of thing. This is the material world around me, and we put on a white lab coat and develop various instruments, and we look at the world out there. So you get that extreme difference of what's happened, placing the world outside, and with our intellect we sort of look at it and we measure things about it, and collect our data and come to certain conclusions that aren't necessarily wrong, but they're just perhaps a bit limited compared with what you can experience if you're part of, related to the much bigger picture of which it is a part. So with the biodynamics, just as we've got that body sort of connected with the distant stars, the starry realms, bringing structure, and then the life processes with the organs, you've got in a way we work with this polarity of sun and earth, and the sun qualities relate to silica and rocks like this volcanic rock that is high in silica, and then the earth relates more to the calcium qualities, where I'm on a Timata Peak, which is limestone, and very much you often have a higher pH of the water, more limey water, and you know, the whole earth activity is very related to calcium, and earthworms, you know, love calcium and keep it in an active form. And the silica, the light, so we have preparations that work with the light aspect and preparations that work with the earthy calcium aspect, and then we have like the planetary realm weaving in between, and these are the compost preparations which we are going to use in making a cowpat pit. But what that is we work with this calcium pole and with the silica, and so yesterday we collected some cow dung from there's a couple of cows in Graham's paddock, but they're the neighbours' cows, and so we've got some cow manure. I've worked it through a little bit this morning already to break it up a bit, but to this we're going to add some eggshells that have been ground up. Graham had collected a pile of eggshells. It's good if I usually just rinse out the eggshells that I'm going to save and don't stack them together so they dry nice and crispy. But I have ground some up, and that's you can all just have a couple of turns of that and have a feel of it as it goes round. And I've also got some basalt dust, which is I actually bought this from a company that sells it as, I think it's called paramagnetic earth, but if you look on the ingredients, it's at least 50% silica, so it's probably from one of these volcanic sort of areas, I'd imagine. And if you were here and you had a decent steel rammer inside mounted, make you a kind of mortar pestle kind of thing that would be suitable for this kind of rock, I would think you could crush up a bit of volcanic rock and collect the powder. This is not totally powdery, it's still a little bit sandy, but there's a goodly lot of powder in there. So that's your high silica aspect.
Sorry, what is that fire? What did you say that was?
Well, I've called it basalt dust, but I'm not sure if it's
andesite. I've been looking for andesite and they don't sell it because you can't get it from any quarries up this way.
Right,
like Coromandel, like below the Coromandel area.
Right, yes. Well, this was environmental fertilizers, one of their products, but I gather they're not in existence now, so presumably someone else is getting.
You can buy this at Ewan Campbell's place in Waihi. This kind of fertilizer or earth.
Right, does he have it?
Yeah.
Right. Ewan.
So Aroha, so where is that from, did you say, like the actual compound, where can you get it from?
Well, I would say if I was around here, well, this man Ewan Campbell, obviously he maybe processes it from some local rock.
Yeah. From other quarries.
Yes,
around.
yeah. Or if there are quarries around that include, you know, volcanic rocks, particularly where you've got a high silica level, and you know, as I say, here it'll be kind of. I mean, I've got one that is actually a heavy steel tube with a steel piston in it, and the tube is welded to a steel base, and you can kind of just pound it, and that gets it down to a good sort of powdery form, and then a metal mortar and pestle just to get a little bit more out. And you don't need a great deal. In India they use there's so much granite rock there that, and a lot of it's used for roading, so just where they're breaking it up for roading, you can get quite good amounts of that. And even people get bore well dust, because again, if there's been a bore being drilled, they just get what comes up from the drilling there. And it's, yeah, it's very likely, yes.
There is another source if you look into some creeks. If you have volcanic origin, you can use this sand from these creeks as well, not from the beach. Even it's volcanic, because there are a lot of residues from
shells.
The shells.
Yes.
So you have more calcium on the beach. And look at river banks, you can find this too.
Yeah.
They're
So
very well grinded.
So like Mangamuka, you can get some from the Mangamuka Gorge, because that's maunga, there's lots of maunga around there. Are you saying that because there's lots of granite rock and other sort of kohatu there? And maybe even Pukati forest up that river, if you walk further around, you say you could get something because there are granite rocks and other sorts of rocks there?
There could well be that. So where the river sort of sweeps around and you get this little sandy bank on those places, that could be pretty good. So for a wheelbarrow kind of load of cow dung, I'd probably just use about half of what's left here. So a cup of that, and sprinkle that over. Well, that's probably, might be a little bit more. It's not too exactly precise. And then how's that eggshell going? Where's that got to? Yes. So that'll be nice and finely ground from everyone's little additions to that. And then we can put this on as well. Just sprinkle that over. That's all in. And then this needs mixing in, so anyone can have a go, help with this. I've got a bucket of clean water and a scrubbing brush just there for us to
Up with the hands.
Yep, why not? Yep, I think that's probably the best way.
So Sea Cliffs also do andesite.
What's that?
There's a company called Sea Cliffs that also do andesite.
Andesite, I just don't know the mineral, but you probably, it's a silica based one. Yeah, so what I often do with there's different ways of doing this. I mean, we can do it on a plastic sheet on the ground, and then lots of people can get round, but I'm less inclined to do things on the ground these days.
How aged do you reckon the poo is?
This has been from the cows in about the last 3 days, but it's I prefer kind of what I call the perfect pavlova, when the cow stands up in the morning, there's a good big plop, and that's got sort of high sides, and you get a half a bucket full at least from one pat. And and collecting it fresh. I mean, this is, I have to say, there's the odd fly maggots are in it, and so it's not what my ASA1 choice from.
I always remember, you know, you pretty much had to dodge the cow pats
Right.
as you ran through the fields.
Oh, great, thank you. Yeah, so, and then I just kind of work it from one end to the other. Yeah, so usually we get it, well, I like to get it fresh from, I've got some lovely cows, just 3 old ladies, 18 now, but there's a couple of lovely heifers there, so they'll be the future coming on. And so we're really just mixing this eggshell and basalt through.
And you work from the bottom
Well, just so
back, just so it's
so we know we've kind of lifted it all and mixed it all. Yeah, we're getting a reasonable mixing.
yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So.
Use your ring with your hands.
Yeah, well that's it. At least you know it's done.
Yeah.
Can you do this with horse manure or?
Well, we usually do it with cow manure. It's kind of the queen of manures, you might say, but but it can be, you know, bullocks as well. But I have to say I haven't tried horse manure. You will get something, it will turn into something, and if you put the compost preps into it, it will have a biodynamic influence. Yep. Everything.
Was symbolic for that reason, or was that Steiner chose?
The cow has particular qualities in its digestion with its 4 stomachs and a complete sort of digestion, and also the cow has horns, and there's a certain quality of that as well that brings to the animal. If you just look at the animal, cows are very majestic, and especially, you know, in India, those breeds that have the big hump, and they're just so self-contained and walk along the road and all the traffic goes round them. They're totally kind of self-contained, and you know, these big horns, well, some of them do have big outward ones, but overall the gesture of the horn is very kind of containing. And it's an animal, if you've ever milked a cow with your head against the side of the cow, you know, there's this huge barrel of digestion going on inside them. And
From the throat right down to the puku.
yeah, and the yeah, we'll go back once more. If anyone wants to have a turn here, they're welcome.
Am I hiding my phone? I'll just take my rings off.
Yeah. And we just sort of go back, and it's getting pretty good already. Not too bad. So sometimes your dung is moister and softer than this, but
And is that better or just different?
well, it's different. I prefer it a slightly moister consistency generally.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll hold this end if you like to help with that end there. Yep. So
would
Yeah.
this be the usual amounts, like, you know how when you do scones, you do, you know, like so many cups for so many people. So this is your base amount. Would you generally just say, let's all do it in wheelbarrows, or would you do it?
loves purple.
Yeah, hold on. Well, can you
Yep.
hold that down? Would you make up a bigger batch than this?
This is, well, it depends what size pit you make, but the standard size that I use, and I don't like to put it more than this depth thick in the pit, so that's...
This is good.
Yes, yes, it's often a good sort of amount to make it at once, but on the other hand, I know places in India where they've got a fully roofed structure and they've got about 20 pits in it, and I've seen even much bigger lots than that where they're really doing producing tons of this CPP for giving out to many farmers, small farmers in areas where they're just getting them composting, using the CPP in their compost to get better compost.
Are we taking it back for you today?
Yes, yeah, let's just take it back once more. Yeah, and yeah, just this sort of throwing thing, not too much pressing, because we want to keep the air into it quite nicely.
So what's the best thing about doing it yourself?
So it's a bit of throwing it as well.
Yeah, and if it's slightly wetter, you kind of hear when it's just right. It just makes the right sort of plop, plop, plop sound.
Knowledge on that one.
Yeah, I've made quite a lot. So.
Go now, but I just want to say thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Enjoy the rest. I know. Get your hands in there. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, so we just work this one once through again. So as I say, this was more in pats and some were a bit crusty, so I went through and broke that up a bit this morning and got it into a reasonable form, and so we're just doing the mixing now and mixing that all together. Thank you.
Really your hands being the egg beater, like when you are adding air to eggs, when you are beating them, when you were doing that throwing process, you were doing the egg.
Yeah, sort of lifting,
adding in the air into the ingredients.
Yeah, kind of making a sponge cake a little bit. Yeah, so you're adding those and adding,
just sort of like to hold it in my head as to why we're doing it, that helps if I can connect it to something that I do more regularly.
It's like sieving the substance as well and making sure that everything's mixed in. And getting right to the bottom.
Yep. That's very, very nice.
How's it feeling now, Fire? All right?
Yep, that's feeling wonderful.
Kids come to good use.
Yeah, that's just the last little bit through, and I think we'll call that ready.
We used to use a peri for this mahi, Fire? Back in the days, a peri. And peri, and we'd be thumping it with that, but we also used to be throwing it at each other. Lots of air, especially when you peel it off your face.
Yes, it certainly would have. But see, that's the thing, people often ask why cow dung. It's the most pleasant of all the animal dungs, especially from your own cows. I mean, what comes out the washings from a commercial, dairy unit or whatever often smells quite sour, and it's not the same. But I have to say, the dung from some happy cows is, I've spent a lot of time with my hands in dung in quite a few different countries, and I think I'm so lucky really, because you just experience the gold that it is, really.
It's not even that smelly. It's like breast milk, when they say when a baby's vomits after, brings it up, that breast milk always smells sweet, whereas you can always smell the difference with the bottled milk. It's sour.
Yeah.
It doesn't smell that bad.
Yeah, so that's all pretty nice. So then this now is ready for placing in a pit, and it's just that historically when we we made a pit in someone's garden over by the Oromohoe kindergarten over there, and then we had a workshop at the kindergarten, you see, so it was local there, and it's quite a nice brick pit. It can be, people use half wine barrels with the ends cut off. The bottom of the pit is always earthen, and then it's something to hold the sides in. So we always used to make it with untreated timber, just making the pit about this deep with the sides of untreated timber. Making a pit about the size, sort of 2 feet wide by 3 feet long kind of size for a good wheelbarrow full, and it does slowly rot, of course, but it holds for a few years. But in India they quickly told us that, well, the wood would rot, would be eaten by the termites before the cowpat was ready to lift out. It usually takes 3 to 4 months. In New Zealand, sometimes 6 months.
But the people that put in the brick, their one was to continually be able to utilise it and have...
Yes, yeah, so you repeat using it. And brick is especially meaning the old fired bricks that were used for the brick chimneys. If you buy even red bricks now, they usually got cement in them, so they're not sort of porous and lovely like the old bricks. So if you can pick up the old bricks still, that's good, but otherwise be making it, just make a timber frame. And was talking to Graham here today, and I think I even eyed out a spot that I thought, well, it's well drained up here, a little bit away from tree roots, and that, if you've got a silica rock, that's what you've got here, well, that seemed like it might be quite a good way to go. So
how deep would you, like 2 foot by 3 foot? And
about this deep, and you're filling it to about 5 or 6 inches deep.
More than a foot and a half. I mean, more than a foot and a half.
Yeah, you just, the depth is just so that it keeps a bit of a cooler ambience and moisture for a longer time. But, saying that, in places where, someone lives basically on a swamp, and you're looking for somewhere they really want a CPP pit, it's like, well, we could go to the highest place and you make a little bit of a depression and put some boards or brick around and bring the soil up to the edges, and then keep it covered on top, and just make it in the season when you're less likely to get rain. But if it gets waterlogged, it won't turn. If you start with dung that's already too wet, it won't turn. So it depends on this aeration and staying dry during the process of turning. But
would that be the same if you had clay, hand clay? Want to have it more sort of up?
I've got where one of my pits is a totally clay base, but it's where the rain doesn't really get into it, so it doesn't get waterlogged at all, and I just make sure the bricks are always wetted. See, with bricks you can kind of put a bit of extra water on to keep it wet.
So sorry to interrupt again, but I'm just thinking, we do get an awful lot of rain in Northland. So is there merit in putting a cover?
Yes,
pit?
We then put a rain cover over it, so that, and we often have a sheet of corrugated iron or a half sheet or something, and that's held down with your concrete blocks, or because you also get wind, so whatever you need to hold that down. Great.
Can you put it inside your greenhouse? Set up inside your greenhouse?
It's pretty hot in there, and you get the hot and cold from day to night perhaps. I don't think I'd put it in there.
Just in Patai, I was just asking.
Yeah.
How about, you know, those barrel drums? Can you use one of those?
Ones, you mean England?
No, not plastic, the tin ones.
Well, metal often rusts, so don't generally.
So you wouldn't use the properties from the rust into the, it's not good for it.
Yeah, I can't say definitely not, but I wouldn't feel inclined to use something that was going to rusting metal into it. So this is at the point where if the pit was here, we'd now just lift the barrow up and sort of let it drop, not too heavily, but so it loses the air, but we'd just get it into the pit and level it. But what we're going to do is just level it inside this barrow as if it was the pit, and then we'll demonstrate how we'd put the preps in, but we'll actually do this process after we've finished here, and it might be at lunchtime and it might be just a few people would like to go over and do that, but we will then put it in the pit and cover it. But so when you put it into the pit, you get it kind of nice and level. You're not patting it down exactly, but just kind of leveling and firming the top a little bit. And then we would be putting, we've got the biodynamic preparations, and I will just wash my hands, and then, I'll make the holes into which they'll be going, so you can stand up and have a look if you like.
Stuff for horns. Would you use this, or would you just use cow poo?
The cow manure, you can work it through in the same way, but not adding the eggshell and basalt. Yes, so they can be put in, there's 5 solid ones, they can be put in a straight line. What I always do is I kind of make a 5-pointed star, kind of based on the human form, you might say, with the head, a foot, and an arm, and the other arm, and the other foot, and a tummy button. And so the 5 solid ones go around here, and the 6th one is put in the middle. And let me just wash my hands. I think there's a scrubbing brush just on the end of that seat as well.
Are you doing some more of this though?
No, you can scrub your hands as well. Little nail brush, thank you. Yep. And then you can both clean up your hands as well. There we are. That's not too bad. Yes, I'm just about to do that. So when we put in the compost preparations into the heap, because we're going to actually move this over to the pit, this is only a demo, so I won't actually put them in, but we've got small amounts of these 6 preparations that we will use. So 5 of them are kind of composted materials, and I'll talk about those. And they've just named with numbers, but they actually refer to the herbs that they're made from.
Yeah, but you just need a
and what the amount that's in each of these bags, we'll put the whole of that into just the holes as they are here. So we've got 502, 503, 504, As I say, this is just the pattern that I always use. Different people have their own patterns and it doesn't much matter. And 506. So they'll be out of their bags, and that whole is a teaspoonful of each preparation in those bags. And the last one is actually a liquid that's made from valerian. And because we don't want to add too much more liquid to it, I'm just going to, rather than stirring it in a bucket, just do a sort of potentizing of this in a bottle. And again, we'll take this over to where the pit is, but and then I'll just talk a little bit about these preparations.
You've got 502, 503, 504, 505, is it?
Yes, and 506 and 507. Now at home I make all the compost preparations myself and the horn preparations, and have done so for 20 years or more. I do it myself because I just live with this question: how did Rudolf Steiner come up with these things? And so it's just by doing it you know start to click on to one or two little connections that you wouldn't unless you were just doing it, growing the herbs and just getting to know things. So that you can happen for a couple of minutes more if anyone wants to do a bit of this. Have a go. Yeah, just kind of holding it level, and just, it's almost like you're throwing it a bit of a longer throw, forwards and backs, forwards and back. Yeah, so we're holding a pulse in it. So these preparations, yes, you can buy them from the Biodynamic Association of New Zealand, and you just look up Google Biodynamics New Zealand and you get to that site. But yeah, they don't make it as easy as all that, because you have to become a member to even buy your first little bit of preparation. So yep. And then this, yes, so that's the last one that'll be going in the centre. So we'll pour a bit of it into the middle, and when we've done it, thank you. If anyone else wants to have a turn of shaking, they can. I don't think we can do it.
Sorry to interrupt again. How much valerian would be diluted into there?
Well, again, this was.
Is that a tincture?
Yes, yeah. It's a water tincture. It's what I'd call a valerian vinegar. Because I came directly from India and obviously wasn't carrying preparations with me, I'm using what Katrina and Graham had here. So I don't have my own supply, which, you know, have a good amount, and you can sort of lift it out and smell it and feel it. And I know the history of all my own preps. So
do they make all of their own ones?
No, they don't. Katrina may be starting to make one or two, but no. There's a few people, some of the vineyards around the country are making their own preps, but as much, well, if you can get horns, making the horn preparations is relatively easy. These ones aren't difficult, and we do demonstrations of it anytime anyone wants to know, but it's just coordinating, getting the materials you need.
Yeah.
So I'll talk a bit about them. If people want to, there's, well, some years ago in 1918 it says, the Biodynamic Association of New Zealand have a magazine which goes to members. You can get also an online membership now, which is much cheaper. And they asked me to do an article for each issue on one of the 6 of these preparations. So that was, well, the first one was the yarrow preparation. So these are, well, I think the association has them together as a file which you can access, but I know I've got that file if anyone wants to ask me, and I can just, you'll give me your email.
Okay.
Or no, even actually your WhatsApp is my easiest way of sending things for those articles. But let me just go briefly, and several of them involve the use of animal parts as well. So the number 502 is yarrow, and up here we've got some examples of plants. See the one in the middle here? If we can, maybe someone could pass that forward to me, or we just, yep. Again, Katrina has brought these along. Just, I mean, there's some growing in the garden here, but you may know this plant, yarrow, with its white flowers, and you can just have a smell of the leaf and it will remind you. But it's certainly one of the commonly used healing herbs.
Does it matter if it's a colour? You know, you get the different colours.
Yeah, in India, for instance, the wild sort is a light pink, and that's what everyone uses. I mean, there's some that are, I guess, have been bred or something that have got the more yellow and the red colours. They could have similar, they'll have at least fairly similar qualities. We tend to use the wild one, the white one. And picking the flowers, that's a flower head that's just opening. That's a flower head that's, you know, flowered up to several months ago, and it's just got the sort of